All right, moving right along. The Minnesota Wild, 103 points last year, third in the Central, 11th out of 32 teams. They lost in the first round to Dallas, 4-2, 30-1 to win the Cup this year. I think last year was sort of their basically best shot to kind of win the Cup and, validate what the plan that Bill Guerin's had as far as buying those guys out, Parise and Suda. They only brought in Pat Maroon via trade. He's got 1 year left at $1 million. Cap space, $43,000, but they got all that dead cap, again, with Parise and Suda, $14.7 million. They're in cap jail right now. Biz, did they kind of, I would say, blow it last year, but I think they expected to have much more of a run, and now they're kind of back.
That's been their MO forever, just getting to the first round and fizzling out. Let's not forget Eriksson Ek went down with injury, and he had a monster regular season, especially with a few of the injuries they had up front. But I like their forward group here, and I think that their defense core is extremely underrated. And I think overall, with Gustafsson taking the net probably primarily this year, I could see him playing about 70 to 75% of the games, and you got a great backup in Fleury, a guy who's going to be supportive. I really like this team top to bottom. I think that the X factor, if I'm going to go back to playoff times, like the big question mark with this team is Marco Rossi going to finally show up and solidify himself as an NHL player? And that's going to help that third line and hopefully bolster the offense of Marcus Foligno, who 2 years ago he had 21 goals and last year he had 7. It was an off year offensively for him. So they're one of those teams that, like you saw when they lost Kaprizov, sometimes the offense can go away, although I don't want to say it actually improved last year when they lost him, but they're a team that has a hard time scoring goals. So if they could start getting that production from the bottom 6 and getting those guys going along with that top 6 that they have, like, once again, going back to 2 years ago, Hartman had 38 goals, close to 40. So if they can get that offense humming along with this very underrated D-core and that great goaltending that they've had over the past couple of years, I think that they're going to make playoffs, and they're the third and last team that I have making it in this Central Division. So that's what I got for them. Overall, like I said, a very good job by Billy G to get Zuccarello re-signed at that number, because we know the chemistry that he has with Kaprizov. And still, the fact that they have those 2 buyouts that are kicking them in the dick, they have done a good job to continue to be relevant.
To have $14.5 million that you can't spend for this year and next, I feel like fans have to be a little understanding for, like, Billy Guerin made this tough decision, but it's only going to help them in the long run. It just sucks for these 2 years, and the team they have is still pretty impressive for what they're dealing with. And I like the signings. The Foligno signing was a little surprising in terms.
You thought it was a high number?
I didn't think it was a high number. I thought the term was long, because it's this year he's already signed, and then he's got 4 more. But the way that Billy Guerin explained it was like, he called, his nickname's Moose. He said, I just can't imagine him not a part of this team. Whether it's a big goal, he's become a top penalty killer in the league. Whether it's a fight, he can change games, and guys love him that much. Hartman needs to have a bounce back year, but he was injured last year too, so that's something that was a huge loss. They got to get him re-signed as well. I think this is the last year of his deal. But Gustafsson, guys, after Thanksgiving, second in the league in goals against, second in the league in save percentage. He truly turned into an unbelievable netminder and kind of took that number 1 spot from Fleury. Fleury's, 40 years old, almost 40 years old. So you'll see where that plays out. But they got a great tandem there, with Gustafsson, in my mind, probably being the number 1 now. We saw what Brock Faber did. Right? He came in, he was phenomenal in the playoffs. Remember the game-saving play he made against Dallas in that first round? So if he's able to partner up, I saw him and Brodin are playing together right now. It's a good team. I think as a Wild fan, you're looking towards these next 2 years. If you can make the playoffs, that's obviously the goal, and you'd be upset if they don't. But you're trying to really win a Stanley Cup when this cap jail ends after next season. So it sucks it's 2 years, but it's what they had to do. It's still an exciting team. And Kaprizov is one of the top players in the league, so you get to watch him every night. The way he's dancing around, I think that Zuccarello said he celebrated his new contract. He just had taco night with Kirill. So that's kind of, those two seem to be boys. I'm a big fan of the team. Obviously, we've been open about how big of fans of Billy Guerin we are, so I'm rooting for them to do well. I think they're third after Colorado and Dallas, but I think they get in as well.
And one guy we didn't mention was Boldy, and he had a breakout year last year. So if he continues to roll offensively, like they're gonna be a solid team.
Merles, what do you got for us, buddy?
Took the words right out of my mouth. Boldy had 30 goals. When Kaprizov was hurt there, that's who did all the scoring, but he disappeared in the playoffs. He had no goals in the playoffs. But if you're a new hockey fan listening to the podcast, you're looking for like a vibes team, this is the team. Billy Guerin's the best. Like he's ultimate team guy. Good like camaraderie. Is that a real word? And they're just awesome. They go no tarps on their interviews. They lose Reeves, but they bring in another character with Maroon. So they're just a fun team to be around. And don't sleep on Eriksson Ek. He's a tremendous two-way centerman for them. So it just sucks that they're in that division because they're either playing Colorado or Dallas if they do get in the playoffs.
Yeah. And Marcus Johansson? He was the big move that last year. That's what got Boldy going. They had that crazy connection. So Minnesota's in. Should be a fun year. And I love watching Kaprizov. That kid is disgusting.
Yeah, it definitely makes that team worth watching. But Biz, I want to bring up the goalie rotation. I mean, last year, like Gustafsson was playing his ass off. Creed took him out and put in Marc-Andre Fleury. I think he has to commit to like a number one for the playoffs and stick.
Well, it's fucked them up the last couple of years, right?
Yep.
Because like they brought in Talbot they brought in Fleury when Talbot was having that monster year, and then they juggled that situation 2 years ago in playoffs. Same with last year where Gustafsson lost the game, but he played out of his mind, and I don't know from an energy perspective or it was because that's how they were juggling the net minors all season long. They went back to that method, but come playoff time this year, you would have hoped that Creed would have learned his lesson where whoever's playing the hottest going in, stick with them. And I would imagine, like Whit said, Gustafsson's going to take over as that number one, and you have a great support system in Flower. And boys, you guys think this will be the last dance for Flower?
I do.
I think this will be his last year.
He's accomplished so much. He looks young as hell, but his kids are aging a little bit. Like, what else does he have left to do? Who knows how it goes down this year? Maybe if he doesn't end up playing that much, he wants to try to do it again. But I would think this is it. This is the last kick at the can.
I do not have them in the playoffs. I think that's who Nashville's going to replace. Nashville was only 11 points behind them last year. And Minnesota's offense, the output has dropped the last 4 years. It keeps going down and down, and they're going to need a lot from within. I just think Nashville's going to overtake them. Like I said, Nashville's got the new coach. I think they got a little shot in the arm. And, yeah, I think they're going to nose out Minnesota for that last spot. So we'll see what happens, obviously. Next up.
One thing to look for. Fleury's going to move into second all-time on goalie wins if he gets 7 this year. So I remember last time he had a big thing like that, he did it in Montreal. So keep an eye out for when that is coming due, if he does it in Montreal, or I don't know if they play in Pittsburgh this year, but Fleury, you know him. He's got the sense for the dramatic, and we'll be hammering that game when it happens.